Good evening, this is the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board, Tuesday, June 16th, 2024. I will begin with a script for remotely conducted or hybrid meetings. This is a hybrid meeting. The Zoom meeting allowing the public to participate. Attendees must register. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Scott Anderson. Here. Peter Brace. Here. Dave Bossy. Dave Franzuto. Guys muted.
Are they admitted?
Ginger, are you with us? They can't hear us, Peter.
Will help.
Right.
What?
Looks like it's right.
Looks like it's right to me too.
Now it's working. Camera's on. Just our participants can't hear. It's on. They can't hear us at all?
Well, they can't speak. This was the problem. Got it?
Thank you, Jeff.
Right.
Hello?
Hi,
See, pays to be experienced.
Hello?
Martha Roll call confirming access. Ginger Andrews here.
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Dave Bossy. Dave Franzuto.
Both of them are muted.
I'm sorry, Dave Bossy's present.
Mr. Franzuto.
Present.
Thank you. Staff, we have Tara Riley tonight.
Here.
Jeff Carlson.
Here.
And we also have J.C. Johnson here. Anticipated speakers. Named
Oh, Adam Ripa.
Adam Rickliff, thank you for joining us. Kona's on board. Can you hear us, Kona? Good evening. This is the open meeting of the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. For this meeting, the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. If they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Hold until your name is called to speak on any agenda item. Remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom or in person. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. If any votes are taken tonight, they will be done by a roll call vote. Calling to order this meeting of the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board, January 16th, 2024. And we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
Dave Bossy, second.
Motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Bossy to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
All right.
Ms. Andrews.
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. Everybody have a chance to look at December 18th minutes of 2023. Are there any suggestions for revisions? Not, is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 18th, 2023?
So moved,
Yeah.
Dave Bossy.
Second.
Mr. Bossy is motion to approve draft minutes of December 18th.
Wait. Did everybody get them?
We've been holding these quite a while. I think we all had them. I think Scott even had a change
The
from
only
way back
change
then.
18th meeting was that I was present, really.
Right,
So-
right. That was it.
If you like to, Mr. Grace, to clarify that they were sent out.
Because December 19th was actually the meeting, so that's my mistake. Don, why don't you take that? Somebody else shows up, we'll get more.
Mr. Bossy and Mr. Grace, you want to withdraw your motions? And we'll continue.
Sure, I'll withdraw the motion until we get it sorted out.
Okay. We'll bring up December 18th at our next meeting.
And I don't have January 2 done. Okay, I had a situation off island that began on Friday and I get back to last night, so
No worries.
My head
Mr.
is-
Grace, that's fine. You'll have 3 weeks after this meeting.
okay.
Marine Department report, if any,
No, Sheila.
natural resources. Sarah?
Do you want me to start
Okay.
and if you have anything? Okay, so the hatchery staff last week went to the Northeastern Regional Aquaculture Conference and Exposition. It had roughly like 500 industry members, farmers, scientists. And we gave 2 presentations. One was on our spat bag research and the other one was on seed management surrounding this season. We also attended a seaweed workshop where we learned all about the different types of seaweed, what's growing, what's edible, what people are farming in addition to shellfish. And then we also attended diversity and inclusion on the working waterfront session, which was really interesting in trying to reach a broader audience. We were able to meet with some representatives from NOAA and the DMF and kind of talk to them a little bit about what's going on in Nantucket and some of our problems that we're having. And some of the interesting sessions included, growing shellfish in a plastic-free environment. People are growing mushroom buoys now. That's pretty cool. You can grow like a bullet buoy in like 5 days out of mushrooms and paint it with a soy-based paint. So that's always fun to like kind of learn about those types of advances and how they could work in our environment. So now we're back in the hatchery. We've established our production plan for this year. We have animals coming in mid-February. Our first spawns are going to be in April. So we're going to do quahogs, blood arcs, and razor clams in April before we move into our bay scallop production, which will start beginning of June. When I got back yesterday, I went walking the South Shore beaches. Peter was nice enough to do it while we were gone. And just to get like a cumulative total of the strandings from the wind events that we've had. And there were strandings, probably around 120 totes worth of seed from both last week and what happened this weekend. So that's around close to 1 million scallops. It's a lot, but in the scheme of everything this season, it is a smaller percentage. We knew we weren't going to be able to rescue everything. There were scallops frozen under ice yesterday. There were scallops that were dry and open. There were scallops that had newly stranded, but they were mixed together. A lot of them were off of the octagon house in the rocks and stuff. So fairly spread out, not the easiest to get. So we decided that, you know, this was gonna be the event that we didn't rally to get, because it was too hard to decide what was gonna be good, what was gonna be bad. And with all the cold temperatures coming this week, we knew that the survival rates would be a lot lower. So we recorded it for our records and for historical records. And then our next effort, as I think I mentioned last time I was here, is going to be focusing on that Bass Shoal area where we have 500 scallops per square meter. I'm sure the wind has shifted everything around, but if we get an opportunity to move some seed from that area to Mattocket Harbor, we would like to do it. We have the DMF permission. We just need, you know, some decent days to do that. And we have until the end of March to kind of make that happen. Those seed are not as vulnerable for stranding. So, you know, they'll be okay. Next week, we head to Barnstable. There's an industry meeting on bird deterrence for aquaculture. So it's kind of an ongoing issue where the state and the industry are trying to come up with a plan to deter birds from landing on like oyster grove cages or oyster deer, defecating and then causing water quality problems. So they haven't come up with, you know, something that fits all scenarios, and I have a feeling they're gonna have a hard time with that. So I think it's just gonna be an ongoing discussion for a while. I didn't see on the agenda for this week, but I did mention to you guys, you know, wanting to look at the shellfish regulations as a whole, and perhaps SHAB tackling an overhaul for this season for kind of looking at some of the changes that need to be made, updating some items that we've talked about, and then getting input from, you know, the fishermen and everyone else on, you know, things that need to be included or changed or talked about again. So if you want, for the next meeting, I'm happy to print out the regulations with an update on what our department, you know, thinks needs to be considered in this update, and you guys can just decide how you want to tackle it, like one section at a time and not be overwhelmed with it. Last time we did this, it took almost a year. So I don't know that it needs to take a year because most of them are written and are working, but there are some things to update. And that's all I have, unless Jeff wants to add anything, or JC, if you have any like bushel counts or anything for the year.
No, I'm really.
So I got a couple, just with those shellfish regulations too. There may be an opportunity to do some of it in shifts as well, where there may be more pressing needs to get done. And then some things that will probably take a little greater public debate and commentary that's there. We have some things that just frankly don't. We're creating a situation where there may be a lesser restriction than the state shellfish regulations, which is not technically allowed. We can be a more restrictive environment, but not less. So we may have some things we just need to clean up there that are a little bit more simple. So we may end up doing it in a couple shifts. And then the last thing I think I would throw in is, I don't want to step on Dave's toes if it comes up, but we have also started to move through some potential recommendations for the Nantucket and Mattocket Harbor's action plan, and starting to get into kind of the meat and potatoes of what the actionable items that will come out of that update will be. So one of the things that we're talking about with that too is once that plan is done and completed and we move towards implementation, what may be the most efficient and easy way to ensure that implementation is going on. And one of the concepts that's being piloted around right now is to have a lot of that come here to the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board. Seems to make a lot of sense. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure just in the room right now, I know Peter is there and Samantha is there and Dave is the rep from SHAP that's on that board. So I'm sure they'll be getting a lot of updates on that as it comes together, but we're still hoping to have that in a complete draft form in kind of late winter, early spring of this year, so February, March, probably more likely March, but, you never know, or you might get troops and drafts if it out.
Thank you, Jeff. Tara, I'd just like to mention that, you did get that notice to us on time, and I'm sorry it's not on the agenda,
Okay with
but,
me.
it'll certainly be on the next meeting's agenda. We're on notice now, and, we'd certainly like to be involved in that, and Jeff, JC and Tara, if there's, things ahead of time that you feel, need to be changed, please, keep us informed with that, and, meantime, we'll do the same.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Board members,
Um,
questions?
Mr. Chairman, a
Mr. Bach?
two-part question. Tara said she'd print it out. I'm sure you meant PDF and you'd email it to us all.
Of course.
Is there any way you could just highlight the sections you want us to focus in on and that you guys are focusing in on so that we don't go reading the whole thing and finding things that you really have little interest in changing?
Definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That was your two parts, Dave.
That was it.
And thank you. Anybody else? Anybody from the public on natural resources report? Not seeing or hearing any, I'd like to, if the board agrees, move right into the meat and potatoes of the agenda here, which most people are here tonight for, the clarification of red flag days protocol, identification of an official harbor thermometer, and communication between the shellfish, the shellfish warden and fishermen. Any objections to that from the board?
I think you've got to get a motion to offer that agenda.
Anybody willing to make that motion for the record?
I'll make it. If we take out of turn, clarification of red flag days protocol, identification of official harbor thermometer, and shellfish warden fisherman communication discussion out of order, move it to the top of the agenda.
And I'll second that.
Motion's made by Mr. Grace, seconded by Mr. Anderson, to take clarification under new business and discuss it. Now, all in favor, Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so we'll now take up clarification for red flag days. Let's start with red flag days and protocol. It really ties in with the identifying a thermometer that everybody could go by, which seems like a good idea. If I can jump right to Jeff or JC on this, JC, at the moment, what are you using for a thermometer?
So we have we have two of them here at our office. They're inside. The thermometers are outside on the telephone pole that's on the side of the building right here. And that's what we go by. We tried the internet, it doesn't work. We tried, Dave can contest to it, that we tried doing it at the Marine Department, but people will go down there and heat the thermometer up to make the temperature go up. They'll play with it or whatever, so that's why it is where it is. And we've always had it at our office, and that's what we've always gone by.
But it's not accessible on a phone.
No, it's not accessible on phone or by internet. The biggest problem with that is because it'll delay, or if you can't get it, or if the internet's down, or somebody doesn't have internet, it's just turns into a fiasco. So that's why it is the way it is, and that's the way it always has been.
So if I could add to that too, it is something too where even with that, I mean, we still do check against readily available weather data and sites. I mean, obviously you don't want to take anything in a vacuum, so you know, we do checklists like weather underground or
Weather underground,
Weather
check the
back
airport,
Gov,
weather
NOAA.
Gov, NOAA, the NOAA station at the steamship. And we always shoot for the higher side of what it is.
just to ensure that there's not a thermometer that's way out of whack. I know we've all seen it, like if you look on Weather Underground in particular, where it lists all of the local weather stations, I always feel like there's one or two that seem a little crazy, where it's 30 degrees outside, it's listed at 45, you know, and something funky's going on. So, we do, and then as a general default, like we said, if everything is showing kind of within range, we try to take the highest of the temperatures. Just to err on that side.
So the thermometer next door, only seen from indoors
Correct.
and, I'm just wondering, you know, how we can get a little anticipation for the
All these
fishermen on
guys-
this.
That fish, especially this time of the year, they all text me, Phoebe can, I mean, I text him. If he's going fishing, he'll text me and say, hey, can you let me know what the temperature is? And I bet 98% of the guys that are fishing will contact me, whether it be my personal phone or my work phone. And we're constantly, I mean, if I'm taking the flag down before I've even taken the flag down, I send a text message to every one of them and say, hey, I'm going to take the flag down. So I'm in communication with everybody that's there. Just the hardest part is, and that's why I say it's their responsibility, because we've had it before, where the temperature has dropped during the day, is you have to pay attention to the weather and what the temperature is doing. Obviously, the weather changes and the weather stations are different or wrong, but I do make the approach where I will go to the beach and try and flag one guy down and say, hey, if the temperature's dropped, you need to stop fishing. I'm not trying to end fishing for all guys or make them come in, but the regulation states if it's below 28 degrees, that you have to stop fishing and come in, or if it's, the temperature doesn't reach 28 degrees by 10 o'clock, fishing is closed for the day. And it's just to protect the scallops and you know, and what's out there.
I'm just curious, I guess, as far as communication goes, are you individually texting?
I'll call
Is
them.
there a
If they're
group
in the-
text?
No, I text them individually because I don't know that they want their number handed out to everybody, so I'll individually text everyone. If they wanted to be in a group message, all they'd have to do is say, I want to be in a group message, and I'd make it an entire group message, but I will text or call every single guy, even if the temperature is dropping while they're on the water, I'll try and get a hold of whoever I can get a hold of. So sometimes they don't answer the phone, and that's why I go to the beach. Because they'll fish, sometimes some guys are fishing close to the beach and try and flag down someone that's close to the beach. And if not, I'll get in a boat and not go out there. I have gone out there before and told everybody, hey, the temperature dropped, everybody's gotta go back in.
Well, as far as the messaging goes, if I were to receive a message that, hey, the temperature has dropped, spread the word, I would find that, in my mind, rather burdensome. How many people do I need to tell? How many have you gotten through to? And now, if the temperature drops after people are already out, I can see that spreading the word boat by boat may be the only way. But if it's first thing in the morning and some guys are out there waiting for the sun to rise and the flag goes up after they've already left the dock, if you knew you're on your way to go put that flag up, by getting a group text out, seems to me may save some frustration in guys gearing up to go, possibly being underway or even possibly having a dredge overboard before they realize the flag is up. And so you know, I mean, everybody must be preparing starting at 5:30, 6 o'clock. So if you know you're gonna be on your way down there, and it may not be till 6:45 for some reason, which is perfectly fine, but just seems like a group text would be better, and maybe we can somehow get in touch with all the fishermen and find out if group text is okay, and so that there's simply no question and not a burden on somebody's mind. Well, hey, now it's up. JC just said I've got to spread the word, or tell your friends, and it seems like it's putting a burden on fishermen, and they may go out of their way to tell somebody that already knows. And so they're using their time to communicate, kind of like Pony Express, versus being a little more efficient about it. That's what seems to have kind of come to a head, from what I'm hearing from fishermen. I'd just simply like to see good communication, a central location that can be accessed by the fishermen. If NOAA or getting online has been a problem, it seems like a lot of fishermen are checking thermometers that are online. And they're updated every 10 minutes, and you can even get a printout of these readings on the thermometer. And it seems like
You'd be surprised on how many people will complain about that 10 minutes.
boy. Well,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Mr. Bossy,
Thank you. I'm sure there's a really good reason, but I've been boating for 50 years, not commercially. Why doesn't anybody monitor channel 16 anymore? Why wouldn't we put a security call out on 16 that the red flag's going up, and expect a response, either a response on the radio or a response by boats turning around and heading into docks? I'm sure I'm missing something, but I've been around a lot of commercial boats, big commercial boats, and these things, they get speakers all over the place on them. People are listening to what's going on the radio. So why are we talking about texting people out in boats, working, pulling in dredges, and expecting them to respond to a phone, when I would think they'd have a speaker loud enough that they could hear a broadcast on the VHF. So what am I missing?
Most guys don't have a VHF radio in their boat.
Aren't they required to by length?
I don't believe so, because it's inside the harbor.
No, they're not.
Okay,
Mr.
maybe
Chairman.
that's the case.
I'm just simply gonna ask a couple of fishermen in the room. Is that accessible on your boat, Mr. Logan?
I have a handheld VHF in my pocket if necessary, but it's not on, and I have no speaker to hear any messages.
Mr. Beebe?
Yes, I have a handheld tucked away in my emergency box, but I don't have it on when I was in the channel.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah, part of the reason that they don't is because of the antennas. You know, they had lines and A-frames and everything else. So it's never, and it's not a requirement, and it would be on channel 9, not on channel 16. But anyway, historically, most boats don't have a built-in or mounted VHF. Can I ask a question too? Is the flag still at the Marine Department?
The Marine Department doesn't have a flagpole anymore. And we were using Kodak's flagpole, which is next door, but he doesn't want us using his flagpole anymore. So we're using Great Harbor Yacht Club.
Okay, so it's visible. It's visible for everybody.
Correct.
Okay, I just didn't know where it was.
And it's still just for the record, Dave, and we still use the flagpole at Jackson's Point for Madigan.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Mr. Brace, please.
If the thermometer's here, there's gotta be a way to display that. Either it's a digital readout in the window that you could just drive by and take a look and see it and go, there it is. I saw it on the way. You might even not even have to get out of your truck, you just look at it. And I'm sure there's a way, something that you can get that's not that expensive.
I offered to put a flag up with this flagpole here. And
Yeah.
the response I got was nobody comes this way.
But, okay,
So if they're not gonna come look at a flag on a flagpole,
if they wanna know what the temperature is, you can fall back and say, there in the window. You see,
Right.
But, and then the other thing I wanted to say was,
but we had the same thing at the Marine Department. We put it in the window
yeah,
at the Marine Department downstairs at the front door, and it was the same response. Everybody just wanted to look for the flag.
okay, so, with so few people going, 15 boats, 16, 17 at best, and how many guys that is, but, I would think we'd make an effort to try and get a hold of everybody and say, look, we want to be able to do a group text. As soon as you, me being you saying I, as soon as I know what the temperature is, it's 27. I'll send a group text, and it just seems the most efficient, because you could say, you could text whoever you're gonna text and say, go ahead and go out. And then the temperature could drop, or cloud comes over while the sun's coming up, it's colder. And then those other guys going out, you say, don't go out, and you have a bunch of eyes out. Plus, what happens if you're not watching the guys in Mattakit and you didn't send a group text? You texted the guys here, but not in Mattakit, then you gotta run all the way out there to tell them. It just seems like a group text would be, we should try to get everyone's permission, that's all.
I called somebody 14 times the other day. So not everyone answers the telephone. Not everyone can hear it because it's in a
Sure.
box or
I
it's in a
understand.
bag. So that's why it's also their responsibility to watch the weather. I'm not saying you gotta watch it on your boat, but if you know it's gonna drop, or you know, if you're leaving at 6:30 and it's not dark out, but the sun hasn't really crested the horizon, and when the sun crests the horizon, the temperature always drops at least 2 degrees. Then you should pay attention as your responsibility to the flag, because that's why we're putting the flag up. To help you so that you know that the temperature is dropping.
So it seems like, sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Seems like Great Yacht Club a little bit out of the way. Is there any way a flag could be somewhere else? Could it be on Straight Wharf? Could it be someplace where if you just drove by, you saw it? If you're going down Washington Street, there it is, like they saw it on.
The consensus I got from most people is they were happier with it at Great Harbor Yacht Club because they could see it and it was a bigger flagpole.
Okay,
There wasn't a
but
lot of stuff in the way, like,
was that because they could see it from the water, or they could see
correct,
it?
they could see it from the water. But, I mean, say a guy goes around Fulling Mill and he's fishing off the Fulling Mill. He's not gonna see the flagpole there, but it's his responsibility as a commercial fisherman to pay attention to what the temperature is gonna do.
Well, I'm not a scalper, but why would I launch my boat just to go see the flag? Wouldn't I want to drive by somewhere where it is before I put my boat in the water?
That's why I'm saying you gotta watch the weather to see what the temperature is doing for that day.
But if you're, I get that. But you watch the weather, but you're the weather for these guys, right? You're the one that's gonna call the number. So I can watch the weather, and the Weather Channel can say one thing, AccuWeather and WeatherBug, they can all say different things from NOAA, but you're the one that,
We could make it real easy and just get rid of the red flag, and you don't have to worry about that.
And no, we can't. It's a state law.
It's a town law, it's a town regulation, it's not a state regulation.
Jeff?
And just to kind of, to play the middle here a little bit. The red flag is newer than text messages, and it has worked. We know it has, right? The red flag is not new to this year, or last year, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. I mean, there's been analog thermometers screwed to the side of the Marine Department. There's been connections underground that get broadcast off of the town computer in the Marine Department. There's been stuff here. There was a thermometer at Jetty's Beach. There have been red flags at the Marine Department, at Codillacs, Great Harbor Yacht Club, at Jackson Point, all over the place. But the thing that stays the same is when I leave my house, even to come work, and, you know, I have softer hands than most people in this room anymore from sitting at my desk. I still check the weather before I leave from what I'm going to go do. I check the weather the night before sometimes to say, hey, I think it's gonna be close. I mean, I throw this out to the group. What did we do in 1988 when the red flag existed and we didn't have text messages? We figured out a way to do it. And we essentially still do it the same way. And I know there's splitting hairs and deal with it, but I feel like we're trying to create a problem for something that's not really broken, when if everybody just does what they're supposed to do. I mean, I think my greatest comparison, really, and I put a lot of thought in this today, because I understand the issue, but the game warden doesn't text people in the morning to say, hey, it's okay to shoot your gun, sunrise is hit. You gotta look at your watch and say, hey, I know when it is, but I guarantee you Sergeant Wright is not texting Hunterson. It's not happening. And there's a burden that goes with both parties, with the warden and the fisherman, in my eyes, to do it. And it can always be tweaked, but I don't think we're looking at massive overhauls here.
Well, it seems to be that, you know, there's a half a degree difference in different thermometers. Half a degree difference in different, you know, weather stations, and, you know, these guys, it's their livelihood. If JC's is saying, you know, 27.8 down here, so he's gonna close the fishery, and these guys are looking at NOAA's and saying 28.4. I mean, that's, you know, do or die for them as far as the day's pay goes.
Let me ask you this then. Okay, so if it's 28 degrees in town and it's 27 degrees in Mattocket, does that mean the guys in Mattocket don't get to fish? And the guys, I mean,
It's
that's
happened
where you're,
before.
that's where you're headed with it. I've never had to do that in my time of doing this. I've never seen it that way. It's always been one temp gauge, and that's what it went by.
And I also think too, and not to just pour it out, is I think that's why when it starts to get close, that's why we look at other sources too, right? If it says 27.8 here, that's why we look at what else is going around. And I think too, and we've had conversations before where we're also looking at what the temperature projections are for the day, right? If forecasted to go up or down or stay steady. And they're using that when you're to that point where it's 27.8 here, it's 27.6 at the airport, it's 28 down at the NOAA weather station, but it's forecasted to go up. That's a situation where I think you typically see the red flag stay down, because that's what the data is showing. If it's forecasted to go from 27 down to 20 that morning, that's where we're making that decision to say, well, the red flag should probably go up because it's dropping, right? You're not making a decision in stone and in permanence based upon one snapshot from one source if you're that loose.
We've also had it where I've taken the flag down at 9:55 and had a bunch of guys call me and be pissed because I took the flag down at that flag. So, I mean, it's a no-win situation for me.
The one,
I agree with Jeff. I mean, it's worked and worked and worked. I mean, I don't know how you're gonna make it better.
I don't ever recall, and I'll get to you both, Bruce, and sorry, but, I, in my memory, don't recall the temperature dropping and calling guys back in.
I've had
And
it,
then what do you do with their catch? I mean, it seemed to me, once they're allowed to leave the dock,
so if it closes, you can keep what you have and come in. But if you're getting that the other day, I put the flag up at 6:30, so it was closed from the start on. And that's why, and I tried to go and flag people down to tell them just to stop fishing. I didn't want them to come in because I knew the temperature was gonna come back. You just needed to stop. I think it was an hour and a half before it actually came up. And that's where we ended up where we were. Because you can't fish while it's closed.
you know, the last thing I wanna do is sit here and nickel and dime. I was told 6:45, the flag went up. But we'll leave it at that. What I feel, I mean, if it went up at 6:30, there's guys that are floating around waiting to see that sun crest, right? They're already out there. And there's nothing that can stop them from leaving the dock before sunrise, correct? Because at sunrise, they're allowed that's when they're allowed to drop their first dredge. And I know we're getting a
So
little
it's,
nitpicky with timing and numbers here, but, you know, I guess it means something to some people, early risers, guys who have another job on land by a certain time, I'm not sure, but,
Mr.
just
Chairman,
simply trying to resolve something that doesn't seem like it should be that complicated, as Jeff has said, and as I'm sure you agree as well, and maybe I'm missing something, JC.
Mr.
I
Chairman.
know you're dealing with, a lot of different people. Mr. Franzuto, quickly, a couple people have their hands
Yeah,
up before. but go
quickly,
ahead.
I agree with you. I agree with you and Jeff. I believe that this has been going on for 35 years that I know of, and it's never been a problem. And to your point, yes, we've gone out there and told people to come back in, and they're allowed to keep their catch. But I just, they look, if the flag is up, they don't fish, and we do every effort to bring them back in if the temperature drops. I think we're making way too much of this after 40-some minutes of discussion.
Can I
Thank
just
you.
ask one quick question to Casey?
Mr.
before we go?
Briggs.
How long has the flag been at the Great Harbor Yacht Club?
only a couple days.
Only a couple of days. So
This week, I think, is when we
the,
moved it
the
there.
flack that I got from one fisherman in the supermarket who wouldn't let me go buy lettuce until he told me what he thought, was that he drove by the Marine Department, didn't see a flag, then somewhere along the way encountered one scalloper who was telling him he could go out. Then he went to do whatever he was gonna do, went back and saw that there was a flag on a pole in front of Colax, and then it was flying. So this person, I guess, didn't know that you were putting it up at the Great Harbor Yacht Club. So have you since sent out a notice that said that's where it's gonna be?
I texted everyone,
Okay, so then if.
and I also asked to spread the word in my message that I relayed to everyone.
Okay, so I would just, yes, I agree with Dave. We can talk this all the way into the night, and we shouldn't, but send a group text. What the hell? Just send it, and whoever gets it, fine, but the ones that didn't get it, it's still a record on the phone that you called them and you said that you texted them and you said they had to go, plus fly the flag. And then there's two ways that you put it out there. Then, of course, they're checking the weather. It's up to them. It's just a little evolution, not a huge change, but I'm done.
I'm gonna allow Samantha to do that.
I think there's a couple of conversations, no one's debating the usefulness of the red flag or its necessity, it's obviously still very much needed. I think to your point, I think where we can hopefully work together and tighten some things up is the clarity of communication. For example, when we had the red flag day to move seed, there was a lot of confusion in that communication. Immediately after that, our peers at the NRD did a wonderful job of implementing a better communication system through their office administrator. I know that it's a million personalities and texting is where we're at, but I think again, some standardization of that. I don't know if it's from an NRD phone. In my opinion, anybody who owns or anyone who holds a commercial license should be getting these notifications. If you choose to, if you hold your license and you never use it and you want to, unsubscribe, that's fine. But again, I think some of the standardization would help some of this confusion. For reference, I may not use it often. I am a licensed commercial scalper and I've received none of these communications. I totally get that, you're talking to the guys who are actively fishing that you see every day.
Correct.
But I think maybe like this is an opportunity where standardizing it would absolve anyone of confusion or complaint. If it was from an NRD cell phone number that went out to all 67 permit holders, I don't care if you haven't fished all year. I don't care the last time you fished, you hold a license, you get your communication and it's standardized. If people want to check in with JC on their own for questions of like, hey, it's 6:40, are we looking good yet? That's between the fishermen and the warden and their relationship. But I think that this is maybe a nice opportunity for, just a slight tightening of, use of communication as well.
Bruce, maybe we'd love to hear from you.
Well,
Thank you, Sam.
I've been around since Franzuto had a $11 thermometer nailed to the side of the shack at the harbor master's office. And the red flag has been down there. I don't know why the town doesn't have a flagpole anymore, but that's another discussion. But last Wednesday was just such an unfortunate situation where no one knew what to do. When I know it's close, I look at all the sources. And I didn't see anything below 28, so, but I waited till 6:30, because if you leave early, you're sort of, putting yourself in harm's way. So I went by the Total Axe at 6:30. I didn't see a flag. I saw guys heading out the harbor. I said, oh, I guess we're all good. So I saddled up and went out. I was at Hussey Shoal, which is close, but it's true. It's hard to see the flag in those buildings near that Washington Street area. The Great Harbor Yacht Club actually is very visible, maybe because of its height or there's nothing else around it. But, I get out there doing a bunch of test tows after the wind and finding some good stuff, and I threw all my dredges out, and then I hear, oh, we're supposed to go in and we're gonna get our days off if we have any scallops on the boat. I'm like, and then I went in because I wanted to try to find out what was going on, and then I guess that's what you got in your boat and headed out.
So you stopped at the town pier at 6:26, because that's when I text Bob Rank. And I was talking to Dan Cronk, and I told the both of you at the same time, I'm putting the flag out.
I just breezed on by. I didn't see a flag. I just was looking out the harbor. I saw boats headed out. I saw no flag.
I didn't see a flag.
So anyway,
I'm not
the
here.
thing is that JC, you were scolding fishermen saying it's our responsibility to know what's going on. But if we don't have access to your secret squirrel thermometer when we're out on the water, we don't know what's going on. None of the sites I looked at said it was below 28. In fact, the NOAA one, which is my gold standard, because it's a federal instrument and it's at the harbor rather than out here by the, the grocery store. The lowest it went that day was 28.6. And I printed out that graph.
Well, ours dropped to 26. That's where I was at. It was 26 degrees. I texted Bob Rank because I had been texting him from 6 o'clock on. And I said, it dropped to 26 degrees. You have to stop fishing. And that was when I put the flag up. I saw you and Dan, you both stopped, because I was talking to Dan at the town pier. And then I went to Bimini's Point. I went to Abrams Point with the whole thing to try and stop you guys. But anyways, it's nor here nor there. But it is your responsibility as a commercial fisherman to pay attention to the temperature. It is your responsibility to pay attention to the flag.
As a commercial fisherman, I was worried about it. I looked at all the sites. I felt like I did the right thing, and the site I looked at never dropped below 28. So how could I know what your thermometer says?
That's what the flag's for, on the flagpole.
Yeah, but likewise, you can only see the flag if you're like in the anchorage.
And
It's a visual thing. If you're up in third bed, there's no way you can see.
And honestly,
But so
Excuse me.
here's my suggestion. Why don't we just make the NOAA site? You're worried about a 10-minute delay? I'm not. If we can just decide that, okay, here's something that's on everybody's phone. It says the same thing on everybody's phone, and that's it. We're done. And it's a federal instrument. And it's at the harbor. We're not scalloping at the Stop and Shop where it's 26 degrees. And the reason it might be warmer down at the harbor is because the water temperature is still around 40 degrees. And that's where we're catching our scallops. So is this temperature more relevant, or the one at the harbor that may be affected by the warm water? It just seems to make sense for me. That thing's updated every 6 minutes. It does have about an 8 to 10 minute delay. But it also graphs it out, so you see it's dropping or is it coming up? And I look at it when I'm out
Mr.
there.
Chairman,
Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, just to be the devil's advocate here. As I recall, the state regulation was actually 25 degrees, and the town regulations were the ones that bumped it to 28, because that's when the salt water begins to solidify. And I'll just give you a quote from my father, who said, the concern is that seed might freeze, right? My father said, if your seed sat on the culling board long enough to freeze, you had no business fishing in the first place. So maybe you could suggest that there's you know, we can be too accurate if it's 2 points, of 0.2 of a degree one way or the other. I think having a standardized source that's easily accessible would be good. And maybe you could just allow a 1 degree difference of opinion if you want to take days away. Just being a devil's advocate here.
Thank you, Ginger. Bruce, did you finish?
I think I said.
Bruce, I want to thank you for that. I'll honestly say I agree with the way you're seeing it. Not sure, if we can get it to go that way or not, as far as using the NOAA temperature gauge. Mr. Logan.
Mr. Chairman, Dave Bossy. How do we establish a direction? So say, as you agreed, I think this makes a whole lot of sense to look at one buoy, the NOAA buoy. It's federal. Little delay. I don't think a little delay is going to kill too many little scallops sitting on a sorting board. But how do we change this? Maybe it's a question for Jeff. I'm not sure, or Tara. What we just can't change this ourselves and say, it's no longer at the building next door at Natural Resources. It's now out at a NOAA buoy. The decision's being made, or is it that simple? Who makes that decision?
Jeff,
I
please.
think that's just a policy decision. I think that's something that we could probably put together. Obviously, I think anytime you rely on an instrument that's not one that you control, having a backup is never a bad idea as well, because if that fails, or God forbid you have AT&T service right now, and can't get on your cell phone and get online and can't check it, then you need to have some other backup source too. So, and that's also something where, unless you have digital access, there's not a display that I'm aware of on that shack that shows the temperature. You're 100% reliant on that.
I think still use the red flag, but base it off a thermometer that we could access if we're fishing up in the wall with it.
I understand. Can I ask a question to the room? And this is not to be adversarial. How many fishermen do you know? Do you check the temperature on your phone while you're out?
Yeah. If I see the deck slushing up,
Yeah, if I feel it cooling off.
no, what'll happen is the seawater will
curious.
start slushing, but I've had the deck slushed up when it's 30 degrees. And that'll happen with high pressure and heat of vaporization, which causes the wet stuff to cool faster. And you'll get the icing. And that can happen at 30 degrees. Like the day that last Wednesday, we had none of that because it was no wind and there was a lot of humidity.
Yeah.
So, the icing can have to do with wind and barometric pressure.
Right.
But if the deck's icing up, I'm thinking, oh shoot, should I be heading in? And I'll look at the thermometer. Oh, no, it says it's 29.
Yeah, I was just curious. Again, I wasn't trying to be accusatory that people weren't doing that, but
Well, we don't have a big percentage here. I spoke with Bob DeCosta 2 nights ago. He said he gets online and he's, flexible. He understands, but he knows that's not the official. And so he's not looking at the NOAA one either, so there's another one you can go on to, Nantucket weather or something on your phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just as simple, right? If that's the direction that we ultimately decide to go, to just clearly adopt something that just says, and give me probably a policy that's issued out by the department that says, this is where we're pulling that from, these are the other sources that we look at. For what it's worth, I mean, that's,
We can go back to the NOAA one
Yeah.
again, but the problem, Bruce, with that, so when we were at Jetties, we switched to that. And we used that, and it used to be instant. And the problem that we had with them, and I ended up calling NOAA, is that temp gauge went in half an hour out. So the only problem with that is that, so at 10 o'clock, we're not gonna get the 10 o'clock reading till 10:30.
Well, it's not that way now.
No, I just looked at it. It's 6 minutes out, exactly what you're saying, correct.
So that's. we
So
can
the
deal
only
with that.
issue we have, if we go back to that, is if that happens.
We make
I'm
it
fine with,
10:06.
if you guys all wanna go to 6 minutes out,
Mr. Chairman,
I'll just extend it to 10:06.
Yeah.
Just
And
a
we'll
minute.
use that, and all you guys can watch that. That's fine with me.
It says on the site when it updates, so at 10 o'clock, it'll give you that reading.
Correct.
So if
Mr.
that
Chairman.
reading comes in for 10
Yes,
o'clock,
Dave,
10:08,
we've got discussion.
that's what it is.
Correct.
May I ask a
Clear.
clarifying question?
Dave, go ahead.
yeah, the regulation states that no fishing shall be carried out when the air temperature is below 28 degrees Fahrenheit as determined by the shellfish warden. So it's up to JC to decide where he's going to get that temperature. So if he's going to get it from a place at his office, or if he's going to get it from NOAA, I tend to agree with Bruce Beebe. NOAA is pretty accurate and it's on the water, which is why the one at the Marine Department was accurate. But it's up to JC to determine where he gets that temperature. And my I don't know if it's a recommendation, but I think NOAA may be the way to go. Everybody should have access to that, but it's his call where he decides it's 28 degrees.
That's why we've got him here. Thank you, Dave. Mr. Logan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we can spend a long time here talking about the same thing over and over again, but nobody has asked Tara a question from a biological standpoint. How critical is this 28 degrees, give or take a half a degree?
In my professional opinion, I don't think it's a huge deal.
Thank you.
And if I can take a moment to say that I think that going to an online weather source will create more of an equity so that everyone can have access to it to see what's going on. And, you know, in combination with the red flag, I think that's probably a better way to go. I use Weather Underground solely. That's all I use. And I look at it hourly, and that's how we plan our day and our activities. And I don't look at what we have in our office because it's in a corner and no one ever sees it except for, you know, JC or Jeff if they go over there to look at it. So I think that this idea that Bruce brought forward is a good one.
Sam, do you still have a question you need clarified?
I do. The 10 o'clock rule keeps being mentioned as well. And perhaps I'm reading the regulations wrong. I don't see this mysterious 10 o'clock limit. And I would just like clarification of that, you know, you can see in the regulations that it has to be 28 degrees. The grammar nerd in me if we're doing shellfish regulations, I'd love to edit the grammar of some of it so that there's no room for interpretation because it currently is. But that being said, I see nothing about this 10 o'clock rule.
Jeff or JC, please.
It's been in there.
Is it state or local?
that's all.
It's town.
I'm not
And
saying that,
state may be noon,
State doesn't have a temp regulation.
a time regular, we're talking time now.
They don't have either or.
not looking to debate it, whatever it may be, if we are opening regulations for amendment, I don't see it anywhere. So if it is a rule that we all still agree on and believe in and want to keep, I would like to see that baked back in.
Duly noted and note that for discussion in the future. Thank you, Sam.
Wait, Mr. Chairman, just
Mr.
one comment
Ponzuto.
about that. we did that so the fishermen could be allowed to fish without losing a day if at, 9 o'clock, it's 32 degrees. I don't have a copy of the regulations in front of me, but Tara, isn't it in the regulations, or Jeff, isn't it in the regulations, the 10 o'clock?
Jeff's looking it up right now. It's in there.
It is.
I'm sure it is. I just can't type that fast.
If I may, and to kind of put a bow on this, I'm hopefully. I think the easiest way is, obviously, there's gonna be a notice issue, because if we decide in here right now that we're gonna go with NOAA for where we're gonna get our temperature. I think before that's settled, one, we need that, and if it goes down, we need to have an alternative source that's clearly identified. And then I think what we're gonna have to do is put together some sort of written notice that gets mailed to every commercial license holder with an effective date, so everybody knows when that starts. Because we're not gonna leave here right now at, 6 o'clock today and be like, tomorrow morning, that's what it is, because then the only three guys that are gonna know are Bruce, Adam, and John, and anyone else, and Kona, who's not in the country. So, I think that's fair. I think we can put something together that makes that abundantly clear how that will be, and then with the pertinent regulations that go with that, that are clear for everyone to see the text. And then picking a date within reasonable time frame here for people to understand that as of, I don't know, don't even remember what today's date is, the 16th, if we said the 21st or whatever it would be, that's what we're going with, and that's how it's gonna be, then that would just be how that's being interpreted, and that can come from the board. I don't think that's a huge lift.
Thank you, Jeff.
And then
Mr. Cliff, did you,
Oh, and that's right, and I think some of it can get cleaned up through regulatory update as well.
did you have something new to add, Mr. Rickles?
Yeah, I definitely agree with, I think the red flag is pretty primitive. By all means, it's where technology has advanced so much that we're using a flag system still, which is, it doesn't make sense to me, I guess. Hasn't made sense since I started golfing a while ago. But I wonder if there's like a solution to, like, say there's an incident where you're out there scalloping and the flag does go up. And then you're forced to dump all of your boxes. And you don't know that it went up, like, if I don't see the flag and I'm out there fishing. And then there's gotta be a different course of, rather than make a fisherman dump his catch, that he's been working on for an hour. When I can't see the flag, and I didn't see, the person didn't see it when we went by it. But, I'm trying to talk to the third person about things myself, but, it doesn't make sense to, force that on any fisherman. Unless they're truly doing something wrong. But,
If we didn't have technology, the flag would be all we have. I think the flag certainly needs to stay in place. Especially if we're in a technology failure, which is happening right now with AT&T. So there has to be a backup. There has to be a backup with the thermometer as well. Be nice, I don't know, can you get a high flyer or something that you bungee cord to the fence?
Bigger flag.
Put up
I suggested the players earlier today at JC Shop.
flares. Is that what you, yeah? I mean,
I see it as a plan B, but if we all are capable of looking at NOAA.
well, once you're out fishing, are you pulling your phone out of your pocket? Can you feel it vibrate? Do you hear it ring if your donkey motor's going? I mean, there's so many variables here. Once you're out on the water with communication, I'm not scrubbed up on everything. I just don't ever recall in my experience, ever hearing of pulling guys back in after they've been allowed to go out. But, you know, if that's enforceable and
We've
you're,
had to do it, me and Jeff have had to do it before, when I've been doing this.
I mean, I'm looking back to the seventies and eighties when I was more involved and, you know, back then it was, once you're out, you're out. And want to respect the temperature, want to respect the life expectancy, you know, of the scallop itself. And thank you for chiming in with that, Tara, but, so I'd like to, you know, we could try to wrap up this discussion. I think you guys have plenty to work with and figure out. I think you've heard enough from the fishermen, that are representing here. Those that aren't here, if they have something different to say, you know, they'll have to speak with you directly, but, you know, I'd like to think we hashed out something and given you guys, you know, the idea of what to do and possibly try to rectify this. And the guys, on the other hand, you know, I've heard flexibility, you know, when Bobby DeCosta said, hey, I just go by, you mentioned it, Weather Underground, I think that's what he goes by. You know, if it's below 28, I'm not even gonna go looking for a flag, I'm not going out. And he just simply goes by that. Of course, if he's gonna go out and it's real close, he's gonna check for that flag. Which it's been in place for so long, that has to stay there. Is there any more discussion
Yeah,
on
just got a
these three
question,
items, Mr. Brace?
If we're headed toward NOAA, then we, either JC or Jeff, or someone said, then if NOAA goes down, we need a backup. So what is the suggestion for a fallback if NOAA isn't available?
We will have all that in the letter that we write and mail out. We'll have 2 stations. One will be a primary and one will be a secondary.
So a different source.
Correct.
But do you have an idea of what that would be, do you think? Like,
Not off the top of my head.
okay,
The one you've got.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh, yeah, there's a million sources.
Is there any way to get
I
NOAA?
like the idea of everybody being able to look at their phone and seeing
Yeah.
what everybody else is doing.
Right. Right.
Or can NOAA actually put a display out?
I talked to them and that's all years ago, and that's all they wanted to do, and that was when it was a delay, and I was trying to get the delay fixed in it. And they don't really do too much over here. The easiest way to explain it.
Right,
Tara knows the NOAA people.
I don't know if they're the right ones.
quickly, I'm gonna add this in, quickly about the other red flag days. At our December 18th meeting here, this board voted unanimously to request or recommend to the select board.
Andy, sorry, to interrupt you. But do we need to take a vote to tell Jeff and JC to work on this, or are they taking this by consensus?
I do like to think they're taking it by consensus, but if you'd like to.
No, I'm just,
You can suggest it.
you
I
guys,
think we're fine with consensus.
you guys have heard us,
I
right?
think what we're looking for is a policy document that clarifies how the temperature is determined and voted. That is understood.
Okay,
Thank you, Chad.
proceed.
And so we had discussion here at a meeting, JC, you were here. I brought up compensation on red flag days for seed management. And I mean, I think it's a lot to ask of the fishermen to work a day for free. And I realize, and you know, it's their fishery, was your words. But the conditions of their fishery are not all on their shoulders. The conditions of their fishery have deteriorated over the years because of other negative effects that have nothing to do with the fishermen. And we don't see any other industry on the island asking for a red flag day. And I don't think it's a lot to ask for the town to somehow compensate And what our recommendation was going to be, a unanimous vote, 7-member board, was to, and Bobby DeCosta helped us with the wording that night, to, ask to take from the general fund sum of $25,000, we lowered it from 50, in a revolving account that if it's not used, goes back into the system, to compensate scholars for taking a day to move seed. We've pulled back the reins on this. Tara mentioned difficult to cut checks. Okay. Where this fleet is so small, JC, is there some way, while you've got your head in the books, to get back to a voucher system? If you're gonna ask the fleet to take a day off, can we give them an extra box for a week? Something like that, to compensate, to make up for that day they had to take off. If we can't bring out direct cash payment, check payment, can we, I mean, they would all be happy with vouchers, I'm sure. And figure out a way that you can keep track of it, that where there's nothing, no loopholes. So I realize some guys may not go out, so they want that to extend, have rain checks. So I understand there's probably some difficulty there. And I also understand, maybe, there's some feeling like, why did the Nantucket Shellfish Association open this door of compensation? Whether they did this or not, this board felt as though compensation is justified. So we're not going to ask the select board at this time, as far as I know, unless the board would like to bring that up and re-vote on it, but to try to author this article for this year. It's very close to the deadline for the town to make their own article. They're of course gonna revert back to you guys anyway. The demanding part of the season is over. So can we keep this on the desk and figure it out for next year? Is what I'm gonna ask while you're both here. And if the rest of the board agrees, I'll do a roll call vote on that. Board members, discussion?
No, I agree. I've heard enough of JC telling us the vouchers don't work. So I'm sure there's a way to pay people. And I don't think it's just gonna be one day. That doesn't mean that this year was an unusual year. Is it gonna be like that next year? We don't know. We should have a way to cover it just in case and hope that it's only 1 or 2 days total. But I think we need to be prepared for it. And some money should be there, and we shouldn't always rely on the Shellfish Association. So I'm in favor of something. I just have heard JC say the vouchers don't work.
Any other board members before I hear from the public? Comments, suggestions? Go to Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the ability to trace the vouchers back and forth, maybe we reinstitute the voucher system, but they need to be used within a certain period of time. If you don't use them, then they turn invalid.
Or open up a Saturday. Mr. Carlson.
That's my comment.
So, a couple things, I guess I'll try to run through all of them there and cover everything that you covered, Mr. Lowell. So, as far as compensation goes and money and those kinds of things, there are a number of hurdles that we have to deal with that I don't necessarily think are not overcomable, but are gonna be a bit of a headache for folks, just for the fact that if you become a vendor to the town and you are working on behalf of the town, you have to have things like insurance. And other assurances to the town that you are covered in case you get injured in service of the town, that you don't have legal recourse against the town. I'm channeling my best Brian Turbin for that, but it's not necessarily my opinion, but that is the opinion that our finance director is gonna say, that any vendor that we take on is gonna have to provide proof of insurance before they can go out to work. Because, again, if something happens, if Bruce falls and breaks his arm while he's helping moving seed, who is responsible? And while Bruce may be nice enough to be the guy that's like, I slipped and fell, it's on me, I'll take care of it. Someone else may say I was working with the town, I'm coming after the town, right? So, again, channeling my inner turbot, it's unfortunately part of my job to do. So that becomes tricky. Revolving funds are also tricky for a million different reasons. Just for the fact that the town has a certain percentage on revolving funds where revolving funds can't exceed 3% of the annual town levy. So like in this year, where we're at like $125 million, 3% of that can go towards revolving funds, and revolving funds cover everything from fuel at the airport to the beach to Shellfish. There's a lot, and it can get squirrely. There are better ways than revolving funds to maybe deal with that if compensation was the route to go. I think the immediate problem with vouchers right now, and this is gonna be a super unpopular take, but I talked to town council about this at one point. Right now, the limit on the books for the town of Nantucket is 5 bushels. If someone came in with 6 bushels and had a piece of paper that said they were allowed to have that, there's nothing necessarily in the regulations that allow that to be issued. So we're in a little bit of a standoff, and I know it's something that has historically happened. I totally understand that. But there are some current hurdles that are in the way for use. And then I think the other problem with vouchers that's come up over time that doesn't get talked about a lot is how they would be equitably issued for work provided. I think there'd be a lot of discussion, because if you're a guy that works on the beach or a guy that's on the boat, you aren't at the same rate, the things that are there. But I simply think there's better ways to deal with it than creating a system where you're making judgment calls by how people are participating or being encouraged to participate. Do I think there's room for discussion for how that would be? Probably when we talk about updating regulations and dealing with it, and kind of a longer term seed management strategy. 1,000,000%. I think that, Tara and I have talked a lot about it, and Tara JC and I have talked about it. And seed management for us has changed, right? This year has been an unprecedented year for what we've seen, right? No one has seen seed in this numbers in like the history of scallops that we know of. Is this a new normal? Is it an abnormality? But I think what it's really highlighted for us is now taking the next step in how we're managing seed, right? And having a really proper plan, because it's not just about strains. It's not just about, shallow water stranding situations where they're at risk of being put on the beach. You're really looking at strategies to retain as much seed into the harbor as you can, in proper spots and proper locations. And I think that there's a much larger discussion for seed management, overall habitat quality, where seed is located, how it's moving through the harbor, how future impacts of the harbor, whether they're dredging projects or other circulatory changes, may impact that. That needs to happen, and I think how we are incentivizing people to participate that can really come out in there. I don't want to sound like I'm putting it off, but I think there's a lot of moving parts that go together to do that and to create a system where people have access. And I think it's something where obviously the Shellfish Association will need to be involved. Places like the Land Council and some other eelgrass projects need to be involved in that discussion. The town, the commercial fishing fleet, all those folks need to be involved in. And I also think that it's important to not necessarily forget there are people that love the recreational shellfish that are super consistent as participants, that keeping them involved and excited and wanting to go out to do it is also important, because we get a lot of volunteers. I mean, I think the big one we did this year. I feel like we had ages, 6 to 86 that were on the beach, and it's great to have a response like that. How do we keep that consistent and fresh and not wear out the same 50 people every time that some of that happens, right? But I think that's a really good, long-term goal and agenda item for here is to get that from what we know is the issue now to a fully fleshed out strategy for managing soup and all of those pieces that go with it. That'll be the end of my soapbox speech for today.
Well, Jeff, appreciate that, because we all realize that, like, this is your third desk. You have 2 other desks to work at that are very busy, so, appreciate you.
Just one.
Yeah.
What else is that too, right? For some of those, I think the last thing I wanna do is look at a fisherman and say, hey, if you're gonna come out and help move seed, here's 20 pages of paperwork I need you to fill out so I can cut you a check. That sucks. No one wants to do that. I don't wanna do that, right?
Well, that's,
There's gotta be a better way for how that is. It may be something that's even more simple, that the checks may not come from the town, that they could come from somewhere else and funds that contribute into there from some unique way. But I think there's a lot of choices that we just need a lot of questions to get answered before we decide on what the final options are.
thank you, Jeff. Mr. Anderson?
I was just wondering if the town could reimburse the Shellfish Association. So they have to kind of manage their own members. You cut them one check, and Samantha, then you figure out how that gets dispersed. So you get around that I'm an employee of the town, the liability insurance from the town, and then there's just this, I say, symbiotic relationship that helps the fishermen.
Yeah, we have a similar arrangement like that already. So through the general fund, the Nantucket Pond Coalition gets a general fund appropriation. It's not that much money. They've been getting it on a kind of an annual basis for a bit. Yeah, I think at this point, maybe something that's possible, but again, I think we have to look at the options, and I think before I felt comfortable sitting down in front of the finance committee and select board to say, hey, I think we need to pull $25,000 from the general fund or the worst named fund ever, free cash, which is not really free. I'm gonna say that it's unallocated tax levy restrictions. That before we did that, there would need to be a very clear, this is the program, this is how it runs, this is the need. This is how it will work. These are the other partners that are involved, to sit down and be able to look them straight in the face and say, this is why there needs to be $5,000, $10,000, and 25, or whatever would be there, to get there.
Can I say something?
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Brace?
I hear what Jeff's saying. I think we all would probably benefit from another season of data collection. Of the bottom surveys of the scallop season, and getting to this point, next year, seeing where we are, and have we, at this point, in 2025, done as many seed strandings, rescued as much seed. And that might be a way to inform if it's like that, or if we're even half or 3/4 of what it is, that we would say, geez, we really gotta do something.
Jeff?
If I can, I think for stuff like this, we try to go by, as cheesy as it sounds, the mantra. I would rather prepare for the worst and then deal with the best. And say we're prepared to deal with a year like this year and have the infrastructure in place to know how we're gonna deal with it. And then say, we had one stranding that was 20 totes, and we knocked it out in 45 minutes and went home and be done with it and say, grade 25, and then be prepared. But, this year was tough, right? It's tough to, Tara and I talk a lot and say, we don't have the resources to go pick up the amount that are here, or it's not safe for weather reasons, or it's difficult. But it's also messaging and expectation management back to the public to say, we really had you come out and we moved, 20 million seed over this stretch. And now we're at a point where we can't get the stuff because it's inaccessible or it's difficult or the weather's not gonna allow us to do it in time. But it's okay, right? And some of that and that communication is important too. But it's also really great to say, hey, we're 100% ready. We didn't have to activate it this year, but we're still gonna be ready next year. When we get put to the test again, we're gonna be ready. And after we do it, we're gonna reevaluate and say, these are the changes we're gonna make to be even better in the next year's set. So I think this stretch coming up is important to get that dialed in and ready while it's still fresh from last year for lessons learned. To get that solved so we're ready if it comes up again. Or do we need to start earlier, right? If we identify seed areas earlier and move stuff, and I think that the hatchery crew and Joe and Griff have really, put a good effort into moving seed this year. A lot of the commercial fishermen really stepped up and helped us move, especially from the Quays area. And I get the ask was big, but I also think the rewards are big. You just have to maintain it year to year.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to go back to old business. Seed management, do we have any discussion on seed management? We just kind of touched on it as far as red flags go. Anything you'd like to add, Tara?
I don't have
Fresh
any,
on seed
I don't
management?
have anything to add at the moment other than what I reported earlier.
Okay, thank you. Board members,
I think we pretty much,
Harbor watershed, public information outreach ideas. We need to, come up with a time for a workshop. So what we were gonna do with this, Mr. Brace?
yes,
All right. Anybody prepared to throw dates out there tonight?
could we want to make that the next?
Sorry to
meeting?
interrupt, I'm gonna head out. Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Bruce.
talking.
Good night. Sorry, Mr. Brace.
Should we want to make that the next meeting or the next meeting in February?
Our next meeting being 3 weeks away, why don't we, the second meeting in February, why don't we do that?
Okay.
We'll call the second meeting in February a workshop meeting. Solely related to harbor watershed, public information and outreach.
Let's see if they do something else. I mean,
We'll have
It'll be
time
at
to
the-
talk about it.
it'll be at the first February meeting, we will have gotten the information from Tara, we will have read it. What's pertinent, she'll be presenting to us, so it's important that we hear from her, maybe there's a inclusion there in the second meeting in February. To continue with that. If you guys think so.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Brace. Anybody else?
I just
Board
think,
members?
I just think it's important we do this before school gets out.
Yes.
So like our deadline is really May. We need to present this by May.
Mhm. Thank you for that, Mr. Anderson. Harbor Action Plan Committee, SHAP recommendations.
And Mr. Chairman,
Zugo, anything fresh?
yeah, we met on, last Monday, and as Jeff said earlier, they've started breaking out the sections, and they covered natural resources, this past meeting, and they're continuing to write certain sections. There's also been some discussion about, extending our meetings from an hour to an hour and a half, because we just don't seem to be able to get through as much information as we have been presented, so that's up for consideration. But again, I urge the board, if you have any things that you have a burning desire to see included, please let us know so we can get it included.
Thank you, Dave. Board members, any more discussion?
Yeah, Dave Bossy. Dave, you had 3 or 4 ideas. Could you could you, by the next meeting, just give us a 2-sentence paragraph on each of those? The pier, the different, there are 3 or 4 of them. To
Yeah,
have something that we can concrete, because we all remember it, we've talked about it 3 or 4 times. I know where I stand on all of it, but if we could just get it so we could say, yes, let's vote to include this, let's include this, and let's not include this. Do you think you can do that for the next meeting? Just get us a couple sentences on each one?
Yeah, I certainly can. And what is our meeting date for the next meeting?
6.
February 6th?
Yes, 3 weeks from today.
But
Okay, certainly, Dave. I'll give you a paragraph, or I'll give you, a couple paragraphs on each thing. And that way we don't have to discuss it tonight since the meeting's gone long. Also, I've got some scheduling problems of my own. I'm going to be teaching a course for the Mass Harbor Master Association, which is going to take up most of February for me, but those classes I'm hoping are going to be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but that hasn't been decided yet. So anyway, I'll get you a couple paragraphs on each idea, and then we can discuss it after everybody's read it.
That'd be great. Thanks, Dave. Short and sweet is all we need, because I think we all know that we really know what's going on. We just need something to point at and say, yes, 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 whatever. But okay,
right,
thanks.
Thank you.
can I ask Mr. Fonzo a question?
Please do.
Dave, Peter Brace, didn't we at the Harbor Plan Action Committee, because I'm now catching up on minutes, and didn't you already propose those ideas as recommendations to the Harbor Plan Committee, and didn't they say that they're gonna work those in?
No, what happened is that I told them that I would like them to be included for discussion, but because the meetings have been going so long, we haven't gotten to the commercial waterfront, and we haven't got to that discussion yet. So yeah, I presented them the exact same thing that I presented to you guys, but we just haven't got to the point yet, Peter, where it's I know in some of the draft information that I've been reading about commercial waterfront and things, there's some draft language in there addressing these items that I presented, but we really haven't had a chance to talk about it yet.
Thank you, Dave. Dave, and if you know you're gonna miss a meeting and you're able to, put something in print, email, we can, read it out loud here at the meeting and, have some discussion, even if you're not present, if
Thank
you're
you.
able to do that. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this topic, the Harbor Action Plan Committee, SHAB recommendations? Dave, we've kept this on here. I did not.
Yeah, this is one of the recommendations that I'll give you information for you to decide. We don't have to discuss it tonight. Dave Bossie's idea is a good one. I actually been meaning to do it, but it'll be included in my handout for the other recommendations or for your consideration.
All right, Dave, have you talked to Sheila?
Yeah, and there was some discussion about, yes, the answer is yes, and there was some
Okay.
discussion about some labor negotiations and things that were ongoing. And she basically asked me to just take this on a slow bell. And so I think those labor negotiations are over now. I'll talk to her again and see where she stands on that. But yeah, I'll give you this included in the write-up.
All right, well, since it's been, this way since 08, I was just thinking that, Sheila probably has, an opinion one way or the other, and if she's comfortable with the way things are, then it's probably not a subject that, we should,
Well,
spend a whole lot of time on it. I'd like to respect Sheila's, opinion and how she feels, just as with the, going, before the Board of Selectmen about, reimbursing scallopers. I really felt it's going through NRD. I want to know how they feel and how it affects them before we.
Well, well, it's been 2012, April 12th. And I don't believe that she's satisfied with her current situation, which is one of the reasons that I brought it up.
Thank you, Dave. Okay. That's good to know. Anything else, on the Harbor Action Plan Committee? New business, returning scallop shells to the harbor for, a type of calcium improvement. This was, brought onto the agenda by the request of Jim Sherwin, who couldn't be with us tonight. He's in Alaska. Anything anybody wants to comment on this? At this point,
I can.
if you like, Sarah, please.
Yeah, I think, as I talked about last time, the amount of shell that we have is equivalent to what we would use in a 1 acre restoration project, based on what Leah used in her 1 acre restoration project and buffering it more. So although it sounds like there's a lot of shell, there actually is not a ton of shell for a similar size project. What we are doing right now, is meeting with other groups of people that are interested in implementing oyster restoration around Nantucket, for either coastal resiliency projects or water quality projects. And so we're trying to kind of tease out how big those projects are and what they entail as far as permitting and design, and kind of proceeding with that. But for now, particularly the oyster shell pile is being held in reserve, and the scallop shell pile, I think we talked about, the town uses for a variety of reasons. We also retain the right to use it for our restoration purposes too. And so that's kind of where that stands.
Thank you, Tara. Any other discussion from the board? The high-speed ferry traffic in the harbor, another detail brought up by Mr. Sherwin. Possibly simply, enforcement, reminder, more kind of for Sheila. But I think we all notice that they kind of forget about our annual warning, I guess, and they're gassing it up sooner than they should be and throttling down a little later than they should be. And if that's the cause of the changes we're seeing, we're certainly seeing some changes geographically, I'll say, with what I call point 1A continuing to grow over there. But and also the horse shed becoming shallower every year, it seems, as well. So,
Do you think,
Mr. Brace, you mentioned sending the letter again, and what was our discussion from the last meeting?
well, I mean, we would tell Sheila that we want her to contact all the companies, which I'm sure she could do in less than an hour. And then for us to send the letter, we need permission from Libby, basically. And so that would mean me getting a hold of Erica and saying, this is what we want to do. We did this a few years ago. We want to do it again. Can we please have permission? And I believe I had to send a letter to them, to town administration, and have them say, yes, go ahead. So if I wrote roughly the same letter that was approved by town administration, I guess they probably wouldn't make too much of a fuss about it. But would that mean that I would have to bring the letter before this board? Or would you guys trust me to write it and send it in and then?
Well, we've always trusted you to write it, Peter. And,
Okay.
If you want to have that prepared, if you'd like to have a vote now to move forward with it, or should we reach out to Sheila? See if, she really, at this point, just needs to talk to the High Line. Diana is out till end of March, but, you know, certainly the reminder to them can't hurt.
I would say that, you know, Sheila's calls carry weight,
Yeah.
but then us following up with a letter is another thing,
Mhm.
another layer.
Mhm.
So, you know, all the complaints, you know, together, hopefully equal action.
Mhm.
So I'd say we do both.
Maybe include a map, and
Sure,
an overlay showing what it used to look like and what it looks like now.
someone has to help me with that, but
Since high-speed ferry traffic began, really not too long ago, but.
Sorry, I should know if you saw. Which one? If I may, through the chair, to Mr. Brace. If you would like this to be a collaborative letter with some island peers, the Nantucket Shellfish Association, we have discussed this at our board meetings. We would love to offer our support, name and signing, et cetera, on this letter. If it would be more helpful to send a supplementary letter to strengthen the argument, whichever the case may be, I would love to offer the Shellfish Association support there. This is also something that we've talked about with the Nantucket Land and Water Council as the water keeper of the island, and I know that they are also interested in this issue. So whichever you decide, if one letter with a bevy of signers or numerous letters to strengthen the case, whichever the recommendation of this board, happy to gather nonprofit peers to strengthen that.
I like that. Mr. Anderson?
I think individuals' letters are easier, so you don't have to run around and get everybody in one room to sign off on one letter. I think if we just say, we're gonna send it out next week, or whenever you do it, each group can send it out. It's kind of, I think, has a more, I'll say, bombarding people with mail. To the extent that you gotta open it, you gotta look at it. It's like, oh, this group here is concerned, this one is here too, so.
Happy to.
Maybe the mailings can have a little coordination
Yeah,
between
I
groups.
think that needs to be coordinated, but to get 5 people in a room to sign their name seems like a little bit of difficulty for, you know, a lot of wasted time.
Virtually sign, I mean.
Yeah, virtually.
I just, sometimes it's helpful to have lots of lots of
Yeah.
logos,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's stronger, whichever your preference is, just offering our support.
Why don't you get a letter prepared from what you've experienced with the NSA?
Sure.
And, Peter has like an ongoing letter he uses. He may revise a bit, I'm not sure. You guys can certainly welcome to get into communication over that. And if you coordinate with, Land and Water Council as well, that's.
Yeah, happy to. We all agree with you.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing issue, and they really do need to be, I'll use your word, bombarded. You know, they idle for a long distance in Hyannis and a very short distance here, and maybe they can make up that on the other end of things. I'm not sure how the enforcement's working over there, but it's certainly working better than here. JC, since you're in the room, you notice high-speed ferry traffic, pushing the limits?
All the time. You can see all the.
Thank you, you know, and I guess, you know, they can be monitored, right online. I mean, Dan Tronk has brought up, picture of the boat leaving the harbor digitally, and you can see they've, fueled up, a little before when they should be.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Franzuto.
Yeah, I know one of the ways that Barnstable dealt with it is that they wrote them a citation. And that wasn't very popular, but it certainly did the trick.
And is that harbor master?
Yes,
Issued?
yes.
Thank you. All right. All right, so we need to, you know, talk to Sheila about this as well. Any more discussion on the high-speed ferry traffic? Semi-regular quarterly reports.
yeah, I'm sure
We
that,
have to the select board, Mr.
yeah, the
Rage.
casualty of this weekend's, off-island business. So, for the next meeting, Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Brace. Any discussion? The dump scallop shell pile.
So I have a meeting tomorrow morning with Drew Patnod. And I was gonna just fill in a work order request. I said, that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. I want to meet with him, because I have like 4 or 5 ideas simply to stop it. Hay bales will divert some of the slime and water. It's going out into the road, so they've got to do something more than just worrying about the scallop, I'll say slime
Yeah.
and remnants. Railroad ties, sandbags, anything so they can move things easily at low cost. And just divert the water over to the side. It appears that it's not that hard to slope, possibly towards the Long Pond area.
Mhm. Thank you for taking that under your wing, Mr. Anderson, at the suggestion of Ms. Andrews. You know, number one is safety. Water freezes. It's last Thursday, coming back from Admiralty Club, it was about 25 feet wide, that wet spot on the road, and it's right at a corner. It's a safety hazard.
I mean, it's not even
Start
just the
with that.
road, that the whole bike path is all
Yeah.
iced over.
Yeah.
And so people are out there running, riding bikes, and so it's a lot more people encounter it.
Thank you, and just with due respect to you, Mr. Anderson, we dropped green crabs from the agenda for now. When something new comes up, if there's more to discuss in the spring, we'll be glad to put that back on the agenda. The same goes with Mr. Franzuto's discussion topics as well. If there's nothing else, our next meeting, I'll say it one more time, that it's 3 weeks away, not 2, February 6th and February 20th after that. Is there anything, any public comment or questions before we close the meeting?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Jeff, for coming. I think
Absolutely.
you answered a lot of our questions that we had pending for a
JC.
while, and JC, I really appreciate you coming. You didn't know if you'd be walking into a room full of angry fishermen. Luckily, there are only 3 of them here, so, you know, I know, but
We know that.
still, we're aware of that, so.
Just as a clarification, Mr. Brace, I'm not angry.
I'm not.
Not right now.
Thanks, guys.
No angry fishermen, we just want to.
I think it's just all about
clarification.
communication.
Yeah,
All
but a
right, good.
good result. Thanks for
All
working
right,
with us.
and thank you, Tara. Thank you, Samantha. Anything anybody'd like to see on 3 weeks from now's meeting agenda? You can always get in touch with Mr. Brace or I. If it's not a 3-day weekend, we'll be doing it the Friday before. Otherwise, it's the Thursday before. If it's a 3-day weekend, it has to be 48 hours, is it, Mr. Brace?
Just over 48 hours.
So, our agenda has to be in 48-hour business day hours before the day of the meeting. So, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Was that a
I'll second that.
Motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Bossy to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
All right.
Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto.
All right.
Chair votes aye as well. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Night.